guest. Like, you can get someone that'll tell you a bunch of bullshit. Who brings you the people that actually move things around this state? I'm bringing you former Senator Jim Lemke. Senator, thank you so much for making the time.
Scott, good to be with you again.
It is. I understand there's folks that are pissed about it, but the organization you have built around this state is undeniably strong. Congratulations.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I was kind of single focused, over the last number of cycles, because I care about the Missouri Senate and I care about the people that serve there. And so where did I engage? I engaged in Republican primaries, in Senate races and open seats.
But now today you hopscotch around here. And you look at Lee Summit, you look at Joplin, you look at places where you built these organizations. It almost makes sense that now you're doing a statewide because you have pockets of people stored away to build an actual grassroots thing. And frankly, most candidates that run statewide, they just don't have that.
Yeah, and I think it was the natural evolution of what we were doing, and the idea that I was fortunate enough to find a guy 8-9 years ago named Bill Eigel that not only did what he said he was going to do or attempt to do in the Missouri Senate, but now he wants to take that on as being our next governor.
Or people can come into this camera and lean in. You may not like it, and I get that. And Bill wants you to not like it. You made a thoroughbred. The guy is the best orator. He's the best interview on a right-wing show. You have made a guy that went from when he started this, he was what he was, he's a business guy, right? And he has developed a skill set. Not really legislating, I wouldn't say, because that'd be a bullshit compliment. It'd be insincere. But as far as a politician, he is absolutely at the apex of his game as a politician.
You made a point yesterday, Scott, that I thought was very valid. In that, what does it look like for Bill Eigel, the fighter, to actually be in a leader position or a leadership position? You alluded to, that Caleb got to that position, right? Bill could have been in that position. What would it look like for him to be in a leader, like a CEO of a company? Well, that's what we're looking at as Bill Eigel as a governor. It's a different skill set, and I think. And listen, I want to give a shout out to John Ratcliffe. Yesterday, I thought he was very gracious on your show. He mentioned that Sophie was doing a really good job on this campaign, and I thought that was very gracious. John and I are not on the same side of a lot of races, but I thought that was very professional of him.
It's also very accurate.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think it comes down to in this race, I think that Bill Eigel is the best candidate. He's got the best message. He's got the best team. And quite frankly, I believe that we're going to have the resources to get all of that out there.
I want to touch on all three of those in a row. But I want to start with, I actually think if Bill would have been Senate Majority Floor Leader, he would have taken that very seriously. He would have done a very good job. I think that Bill is a leader, and I think if he's not in charge of something, he's going to be a problem. And I just think that's who Bill Eigel is.
It's his personality.
Yeah. If he's not leading it, he's going to be probably making it your life miserable with it. And I think that's what you saw in the Senate. But I do believe if Bill Eigel's governor, like take a property tax proposal, I don't think he will do something that'll be demonstrably bad for the state. I do think his rhetoric won't change, but I don't think Bill Eigel will do things that fundamentally hurt this state. And he's a business guy. He knows. He knows math. It's not like he's some neophyte that's never done anything in the world. I think Bill Eigel, if he is governor, will take it very seriously.
I agree with that. Where I wouldn't agree with you, though, is on the comment that you made yesterday that Bill Eigel doesn't really believe that he can eliminate personal property tax. I think Bill Eigel does believe that. He believes that Missouri will be the 30th state that does away with this regressive tax.
Fair enough. I think if we were Jay Nixon always talked about how he liked a buffet, a little bit of property, a little bit of sales, a little bit of personal income tax. He thought that was the right move. He said, if we strike oil, scrap them all. If somehow if global warming brings the beaches to the Mississippi River, scrap them all. But in reality, if you eliminate personal property tax today, and that's all you do is eliminate the school buses, you're going to have people at bus stops in August waiting for the bus. It ain't coming because there ain't no money to put gas in it. And ain't no money to pay a bus driver.
Yeah. I don't believe Bill believes that. And I don't believe it.
You could just eliminate personal property tax and do nothing.
The plan that Bill Eigel has put forth the last couple of years is to actually use the surpluses at the state level that will be generated from downsizing a bloated state government, and we're talking billions of dollars, and backfill the locals so they don't lose a dime. Scott, this is actually
They
a
don't lose a
mindset.
dime.
They don't lose a dime. This is a mindset that
And you
is
tell- you
so
think folks in
foreign
Canada
to the
believe that?
swamp, so foreign to the swamp. And by the way, there is a swamp. You were talking about the swamp yesterday, and the idea that every politician, during the last week of session is going to say you're the swamp, and then the next week they're on the phone with the swamp asking them for money.
Okay,
All
this is if you have an iPhone with me, this is a call log. It has you saying that the storm is bad. I spoke to Andrew Story. I'm going to interview Crystal Quaid tomorrow. I'm going to do Wake Up Mid-Missouri, by the way, from 6 to 9. I spoke to Gary Wheeler today. I'm kind of going through the list here of folks I talked to. You're telling me, Scott and Jim, that if we popped up Bill Eigle's phone the week after session, there was no lobbyist he called. I don't buy that. And I don't think that makes him any different than anybody else, by the way. But I think that Bill Eichel definitely called some lobbyists and said, okay, yeah, I need some of that money.
Actually, it was probably me calling the lobbyists.
Okay, well, fine. See, that's why I like having you on. But let's I want to hopscotch through this. I think Bill Eichel absolutely believes he'll change personal property taxes. I don't think you can convince anyone, a Kennett Indian, that if you delete that they won't lose a dime. And you know what? I'm actually thinking maybe they should lose a dime. I don't know that that's the worst thing in the world, but I do think there's a floor. You have to replace that with something in a plan. And those surpluses, as you know, came because Joe Biden borrowed a bunch of money from China and sent it to Missouri. He did it. I don't think he can do it again. I don't think anybody should be sitting there waiting for Washington to send up another $3 or $5, $10 billion. I think that surplus has been spent on ARPA the way you had to spend it. And the state, do you believe the state of Missouri runs a surplus right now?
No, I don't. No, I think
So
the
what
only
surplus
I think
you
the
gonna
only
spend?
I think the only reason we have surpluses right now is exactly what you said,
Yeah.
is because Washington D.C. is printing money and
Yeah.
sending it to the states, no doubt about it. But just like what happened with Kansas, you can't cut taxes and then not cut spending. So what is out of the realm of even a possibility to guys like you and me that have been around this town for 22 years or longer, right? Is the idea that we'd actually do something different than what we've done before. And what Bill Eigel has a plan. Really, he's the only guy that has a plan. Kehoe might have a plan. Kehoe's plan is to do more of the same that we've been seeing for the last couple of decades under Republican leadership. Bill Eigel's plan is to go in and really right-size our state government. For instance, you take a look at the state of Indiana, similar population size. They have 24,000 state workers. You know how many state workers we have in Missouri? 55,000. We have such a bloated government
You've been
in this
business.
state.
Do they outsource some of this stuff? I mean, FTEs is a specific Jeff City lingo, but do they if you started outsourcing a bunch of these FTEs, you get the FTEs down. It kind of depends on, to me, how you look at the federal money that comes through, and then how much do you outsource? Do I think Bill Eigel, as a business guy, could sit down and cut some stuff? Yeah, I firmly believe that. I got a few ideas for him, actually.
Right.
But in the end of the day, I think the problem, just take Bill Eigel out of it, is Republicans come in and say, I'm going to cut taxes. And I actually believe if you did cut taxes, especially at the federal level, where the majority of your tax dollars are taken in, you could change government. But there's a gap from, it's like planting a tree. Once you plant that tree, next summer, you don't go sit under the shade, or you don't go pick the apples off of it. It takes a while for that contraction of government and that increase in private sector money to actually see results. I mean, there's 5-6 year lag in those major results, and that 5 to 6 years get pretty lean. And Kansas wasn't willing to accept the lean.
No, I get you.
I don't think we are either.
But again, I think that you're looking at a model that's static, that stays the same. The dynamics that are happening in Tennessee, for instance. You go to Nashville right now, there's cranes everywhere. The place is exploding.
But you pay a high sales tax, and you have
again, you have to make a determination about how you're going to pay for the goods and services that the people demand from their government.
That goes back to my point. If you get rid of personal property tax, which is awesome, I love the idea.
Yeah.
Tennessee might do that, but then you're going to pay a hell of a sales tax on everything you buy. So does Bill Eigel want to raise the sales tax to offset that?
I think that within a model again, we're having to determine what is the number that we need to get to
It's
provide
so hard
those
in a
services.
campaign to answer that question.
Yeah.
And that's not you. That's not Bill Eigel. That's no. Every Republican does the old waste, fraud, and abuse 3-step. It's all bullshit.
Yeah,
I
it's
do,
not bullshit.
I think you
I
could cut
disagree.
government,
I
but
disagree. You know what? We did a
where's the
study.
waste and fraud and abuse?
We did a study,
If there's fraud,
independent study done by the McKinsey Group about 3 years ago on our Medicaid program. And guess what they found? They found $1 billion worth of waste, fraud, and abuse in our Medicaid program. This is a third-party audit, okay? Guess what we did as far as reforms from that audit? Zero.
If there's fraud,
we did nothing.
If there's fraud, isn't there if there's fraud today, shouldn't people that found that fraud be trumpeting it, including Bill?
Listen, one of the things it found was that our hospitals are actually double billing on people that come into state from other states that are on Medicaid in another state. That state pays Missouri for that service, and then Missouri pays the hospital again. The hospital gets paid twice. Now, would you call that fraud? I think that's a fraud on the taxpayers of Missouri and America, but nothing's been done about it. We're the only state in the union that does that.
I'd like to tell you, because I read that. It was at a Truman Medical Center, and there was a very good reason, because I was like, aha, here we go. And it was
the reason is to keep the rural hospitals open. It's a bunch of bullshit. It's a scheme.
Well, spoken like a St. Louisan.
Yeah, it's a scheme that the big hospitals have put together, to benefit themselves. But they tell us, all this money is going to go to the rural hospitals, but they divvy it out, as far as what the formula is.
Let me jump back to the campaign.
Sure.
Second, you are running a good race. There's 3 things you mentioned there. You are doing more with less. Where's the race at right now?
Well, the latest poll that came out has Ashcroft imploding from 2 years ago at 57%, now at 22%. Kehoe, after spending...
You're a pro, though. You knew he didn't have 57% real. Where do you... I don't know that I believe the 22, but I believe he certainly isn't where he was. And I don't think he was going to be. There has to be a chart you thought Ashcroft would be at. And he starts at 50. Let's just say 60% for a round number.
Okay.
I don't believe he's at 20%, but I don't believe he's at 60. He's down... You think he's at 30, 28?
Yeah, I a year ago.
And where did you
was
expect
saying,
him to be?
Yeah, a year ago, I thought his floor was 30%. And then he put a poll out. It had himself at 28%.
I thought it was, if you'd asked me his floor, I think I always said, we taped these, so you can go back and check if I'm full of shit. 28-32 is what I thought the floor was.
Yeah.
I think it's lower today.
I think it is too. I think it is too. And, I think it's because, and John mentioned this yesterday, I think the more that he campaigns, the more people find out he's not John Ashcroft. And it's not that you mentioned it too. He's a good man. He's a good guy. He's just not very good at this.
Well, to me, it's kind of tough. It'd be like, well, our ace now is good. He's not Bob Gibson. I mean, I was a Kit Bond guy. All of us younger guys were much more Kit Bond than we were John Ashcroft guys. But when he would tell those stories at the end of that fundraiser, and he'd talk that gravelly voice, you'd lean in because he was that video he did on the back of that truck.
Yes.
I was like, I'm watching it, and I have flashbacks to 25 years ago of me listening to John Ashcroft finish that, and that gravelly voice and hit the charisma. But it was 1:15, the video.
Right. Amazing
video.
Yes.
I wonder how many people watch that video that doesn't know exactly who they're voting for already. I would think very few. But God, the video was shot well. It was incredible. There's not 1:15 commercial. Can John Ashcroft get on a 30-second commercial and tell that story?
Right.
I kind of think the guy can. I mean, he's the man. I'm with you. It is a wonderful benefit to have that last name, but boy, it is a hell of a thing to live up to.
Yeah. So again, I think that he's probably going to come in around 30%. I think the one that's everybody's overestimating is what Kehoe can do, even if he has $10 million. I was saying 2 years ago, I never thought he'd get over 20%. I mean, you take a look at a Peter Kinder or a Catherine Hanaway.
You could have convinced me of that, but sitting here on June, what are we? We're June 5th. Sitting here on June 5th, I don't think his floor is 20. I think that's a little higher. And then I'll just transition to the next part. You mentioned you have the resources. Where are you at right now with cash?
1.7, I think.
Is that PAC and candidate committee?
Mm-hmm.
What do you, if let's say Kehoe gets to 10, which I think is probably aggressive, but we're probably talking 8, thereabouts.
But remember, he's already spent 6. We haven't spent anything.
Well, he's booked some TV too out of that 6, right? I mean,
that's spent.
But I mean, he's got a TV buy-in.
Yeah.
And Springfield's been an interesting market. I would have thought Ashcroft would have been a real hard nut to crack at Springfield. I also have seen, because you've ran races there, some of your activists are in that 7th congressional district.
Mm-hmm.
Bill does have an infrastructure down there, and Bill's people ain't moving. I mean, they're only going to bring their neighbors in. You're not going to convince them to not vote for Bill. They're the hardest core, I think, of anybody's support. I watched Kehoe. TV works.
Right.
He ate Ashcroft's lead. I would say,
but
from the polls I've seen, he's up 4-5.
Let me speak to that though. You notice, and wherever Jay was, let's say he was in the mid 40s or whatever the number is, and he's down in the mid 20s now. If you realize, most of those votes that left Ashcroft didn't go to Kehoe. They went to undecided. Now Kehoe got a little benefit from them. He got a little bump, all right, from all that money he spent. Yeah. But they went to undecided. That works for our campaign. But they're not going to; those voters aren't going to go back to Ashcroft after leaving him. Okay. And I don't believe they go to Kehoe, because Kehoe's message is so bad. He's got such a terrible record. It's just he's running in the wrong primary.
Isn't the Kehoe message the best Kehoe message? I'll whoop your ass.
Yeah, but I haven't heard that.
I haven't either. but if Mike Kehoe had one of those live Mike moments where he goes, "I'll beat your ass," because Mike Kehoe, if he tells you he'll beat your ass,
he's a tough cookie.
He comes off like he could do it.
Yeah, right.
Like if I was at the bar, and he had them eyes coming up, knocking bar stools over, I would think he's about to whoop my ass. You know what I'm saying? But I've not seen that either.
Yeah.
I think the "I'll whoop your ass" message for Mike Kehoe is the right message, and it's also what people want to hear. I mean, we live in a world where we all watch Valentina Gomez clips and chuckle.
Yeah.
But we all go, well, I mean, that's what folks want.
Well, they want Donald Trump.
Yeah.
They want a fighter.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that what the Kehoe team is doing is they're trying to convince Missourians that everything's just fine in Missouri. And we just need to keep on this same track. That's just not what we're hearing as we travel across the state and talk to real people.
But I'll tell you this. It is just, I got to come to Bill's kickoff. One of the best kickoffs I've seen. I've never been to a presidential kickoff, but it was outstanding. The number of people, the production, the venue. Mike and those folks that turned out are all top activists that are going to be spending their July helping Bill Eigel win. I looked at them. I met them. I saw their eyes. Mike Kehoe goes to small towns of 200 people, and 400 people show up. There is a connection he's making. Now, here's the thing. It's weird to me. I don't think when Mike Kehoe gives a speech, I'm like, oh, hell, me and Flat Doug get in the truck. We're going to see this guy, right? I don't think that. I think he has personally made this so many laps around this state. And look, in the room, Mike Kehoe is a very impressive man. I don't think you'd have a problem admitting that. I mean, he walks in the room, you're impressed with him. He's got it together. He's well-dressed. He's a leader. Mike Kehoe is a leader, and he attracts other leaders. I think it's the folks in town calling 5 people and them calling 2 people. Explain to me his crowds.
Well,
I can't explain it.
Listen, I've never seen a crowd like that for Mike Kehoe. So
I absolutely have.
I mean, so
not 1,000.
Yeah.
But in small towns, 250, 300, legitimate big crowds coming out. And I like Mike Kehoe. He's not a great speaker.
I just wonder if those are Republican primary voters. I mean,
again, I just don't know why
know.
You'd come to something like that if you wasn't.
Well, I mean, maybe the Farm Bureau put it on and they turned out a bunch of, farmers. I mean, I don't even know if they're registered voters.
The dirty secret around this state is that people vote in these primaries not for governor. I mean, Bill has but that you can't rely on the people that actually are activists to vote for you. That's not enough to win an election. People vote for the sheriff. They vote for a commissioner. That's why they turn out and vote. Really, they got their uncle running for treasurer somewhere. They really turn out for local races, and they happen while they're there. They also vote for governor. Now, it might be a little different in the cities where you don't have a county collector, right? So it's just a little different. But for the most part, out in rural Missouri, they don't show up to vote for the governor's race. That's just not real. They show up to vote for the sheriff's race. And
well, you would know better than I would, Scott. I represented South County, in the legislature. But, I think that the Missourians we're talking to across the state, whether it's in urban areas or rural areas or suburban areas, people are pissed off first of all.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
they do care who their governor is, and they want to know what the governor's going to do. So I don't know if I'd agree 100%.
Did they believe him? Anything you say, they believe anymore. Anything anybody says, I think they're so angry and so jaded. The only person they believe is Donald Trump.
Well, I think that
Are you going to get the resources? I think that's what comes out. Bill Eigel has the message people want. I've said that from the jump. I believe that he can deliver that message, what people want. Now we could debate whether you could actually make that come to life. That's a discussion for people that are smarter policy folks than me. But at 1.7 ain't going to get you elected governor, is it?
No, but that's
so. I'm here with the confident. You got a trial lawyer, maybe $500,000.
I'm confident.
2.3 don't get you there either, does it?
I'm confident that we're going to have the resources that we need to win this race. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you what that number is going to be.
If Kehoe's at 8 million and Ashcroft gets to 3, Bill Eigel's got to get to 3, right?
Right.
I mean, there's a, and I don't want to, if it's some secret campaign thing, there's an algorithm you got to have.
John put forth a number yesterday. We're going to get more than that number.
Yep. and you could do more with less. That's just fact.
Yeah.
So, but I'll ask you the question I asked Kim. Then I want to talk about a couple issues and move on to other races. You may have a guy there. He likes Bill Eigel's message. He's not convinced he could win. It's been since the 50s. A guy went from the state senate to the governor's mansion. He's got his checkbook out. He's like, I don't know. What date does that guy need to write that check by for it to give you the maximum benefit? I mean, there is a time when KSDK sold the evening news. There's a time when Bally's has sold the Cardinal games for the last 2 weeks of July. Running campaigns, when do you need somebody to write that check so you could spend it effectively?
I think the middle of July.
That late?
Mm-hmm.
You can still buy.
Yep.
Is that because more digital?
I mean, John mentioned it. Mentioned it yesterday. I mean, it's going to be more expensive.
Yeah,
right.
That's what I'm saying. When does that? I mean, I would say $1 today is worth 90 cents in June 20th. Maybe it's worth 80 cents July 4th. It's going to be down to worth 50 cents July 15th, right? Just what you can buy.
Yeah, I mean, those are all dynamics of this race. Thank goodness I'm not the guy that makes those decisions or has to. That's not where.
You ain't the guy making them.
Nope. No.
You ain't even the guy that looks over them.
No, I'm the guy that brings the money into the door.
So
not how it's spent.
Where do you get that other $1.5 million?
Oh, I think that there are very interested people that have an interest in this governor's race and are sitting on a fence right now, waiting for things to develop. And,
but Kehoe's got a lot of them locked down, right? I mean, Jay Ashcroft's real problem is even though Jay Ashcroft has great polls he can show you, maybe had better ones, but still has. I mean, I'd rather walk into a donor meeting and say, "Here's my poll showing me leading," but Kehoe's got a lot of those guys locked down.
Oh, I think you're right. I think so
you got to get a trial lawyer,
he's got every special interest except one lined up behind him.
What's the one?
The trial attorneys.
Yeah.
And why did the trial attorneys support Bill Eigel and other constitutional conservative Republicans? Because they support the 7th Amendment.
Okay, so everybody over here is the swamp, but the trial attorneys, they're dried off. They're dry. They're the desert.
I think the swamp consists of all special interests. Right?
I'm happy to all my friends with bar cards and know your feet are dry, but the rest of you, you're some swampy some bitches. All right, let's talk about China. It's been the issues. The issues I think punched through. The China issue has punched through. Going back to the Schaefer race in 16 for AG, it has had lasting effect.
Yeah.
I don't know in reality, but in politics, so politics ain't governing. It does feel like the China issue punches through, right? That's something you've drawn. I noticed you've drawn some blood on Ashcroft. He's actually responded on the China issue.
Yeah, I think that, again, everybody wants to try to rewrite history, right? But, the fact of the matter is that Jay went in and he testified on Bean's Senate 55 last year. That would have taken it, and he had actually admitted this just recently on a radio interview on Gary Nolan's show, and that bill would have taken it from 1%, which is current law, which Mike Kehoe voted for, by the way.
Isn't it weird the libertarians want to tell you what you can do with your land?
Yeah, right. And then it would have taken down to 0.5%, which is 135,000 acres. So Bill's position has been, how about 0? let's sell 0 of our land to any foreign nation. So all 3 candidates are using this issue.
And they're all full of shit to some degree, in my opinion. But Jay was there at the time. It was limiting it was the right move. Now it's Bill's like, well, I'll see you're limited and I'll raise you 0. Right. I mean, Jay thought he was doing the right thing. Right. I guess you could say the right thing in the sense that Jay don't want to buy your land, but he wants to tell you who you can sell your land to.
You know, this is a big issue not only in Missouri. I mean, Arkansas actually passed this law, and she's taking all of their farmland back.
Besides the love for Trump, is there anything that cuts better in this primary than that China issue?
No, I think it's number 1.
I mean, I think it's the fact that Keogh's running ads on it, the fact Jay talks about it, the fact you're talking about it. You all are seeing something of the same thing, right?
Right.
Give me a prediction. Can you win without Ashcroft imploding?
No, but he's already imploded.
25,
40,
28. Yeah, that's not imploding.
42% undecided. That's the number to look at. Don't be fooled by this number where it's eight points between the guy in the third and the guy in the lead.
These races break late and break hard.
They're going to break late. They're going to break hard. This is going to be very similar to 2016.
So when a lady tell me about this lady going to vote. She votes every time in Dent County. She goes to the that church in Salem where they vote. She's heard that name Ashcroft. So right now she hears all these ads and she's probably thought, well, maybe I'll vote this way. She ain't living and dying with it. She walks in that booth. Some of that undecided comes back home, don't they?
I don't think so.
Isn't home to Ashcroft?
Yeah, I think they may. Matter of fact, I mean, if Jay really is at 22 right now, and we talked earlier, I thought his floor was around 30.
Where does Jim Lemke think this race is right now?
I think it's right where this poll is talking. Tells us it is.
And I think Ashcroft's a little higher, Kehoe's about there, and Bill's a little lower.
Well,
I would say all within the margin of errors, but if I had to guess, 14% you were high-fiving, right, in your office when that poll came out. I mean, if I'm everybody, I'm like, yes. If I'm everybody at Ashcroft, I'm like, oh, damn. If I'm Kehoe, I'm like, man, I'll take these odds. That works. Where will this race end up? I think I've got you a prediction from somewhere else written down, but you want to revise it now or update it?
I think that we win the race 40 to 30 to 30, something in that neighborhood.
40 to 30?
40 for Bill, and then 30 for the other 2.
I do think it'll break hard. I bet it'll be more than whoever wins will win by more than 5. We've just seen these races break, and we've seen them break hard. Speaking of that, I want to thank United Fiber, folks, letting us hear this in the great Northwest, as Senator Hageman used to say. Listen to us on the best rural broadband you can find. And if you're going to bring folks into town, Jim, that Eagle donor wants to come in for a meeting and you want to impress them, where do you put him up at?
No place else but the
Courtyard by Marriott.
Yeah,
that's where it is. And you got to see this. I was down in Berry County, and my buddy gave me a gift. Look at this. This is an old James Brothers piece. They're gambling, shooting. They got a little money they stole out of a bank, some poker chips. I appreciate this so much. Thank you very much. My buddy Chris down there gave this to me. You got to come up Jeff City now. We'll put you up at the Courtyard by Marriott, and I'll show you in the bar. I'll display this. Thank you very much. I'm very grateful for you doing that. Let's talk state senate races. What's the most interesting state senate race to you?
Oh, I think the 15th is interesting.
What's going to happen? That's your stomping ground. What's going to happen there?
That's an interesting matchup. You got Gregory and Harder, and Bolin. You've got a mayor of Chesterfield, I believe, Bolin. Wildwood. Excuse me.
They're all the same.
County councilman that's been elected, in the area.
Harder seems to me. I just have a hard time believing he doesn't have a floor. I mean, that's the most expensive media market. Yeah. Them folks ain't probably the folks wanting to just answer their door and bring you in and have a cup of tea with you. I think Harder has a floor there. Bolin seems like the rocket that could take off or not. Yeah. And then Gregory, it feels like to me he's the favorite. He can raise the money. He knocks on your door. I always tell him he needs to scuff himself up a little bit.
Yeah.
He needs to spill some mustard on his shirt or something. Let folks get a little, feel like they can hug him. Right now, you always don't want to hug him. He's too damn pretty.
Well, and all of them say they're knocking doors. Everybody always says that, right? But I was actually dropping a couple of Eagle yard signs off down in that district. And one of the ladies that was there said, I just had a guy running for Senate knocking on my door. His name was David Gregory. And
Yep.
so, I mean, yeah, it's kind of a testimonial there that he's working. He's telling me he's working.
I
So,
believe Boland's working. I've had some people affiliated with the campaign give me some numbers that I'm a skeptical German, so maybe I don't know that quite the door knock numbers himself. I just don't know if the math allows you to do that many. I ran for mayor myself once and knocked doors, and if you do it right, it takes a minute because folks talk to you. Now that's in Butler County, where folks are more apt to have you come in and show you their garden and what have you. But I believe Mark Carter is probably doing some doors, but I think he has a floor. And it's weird. I think it's an interesting thing about that county council. They don't raise money. Mark Carter's never. Right. It's not that he was a bad fundraiser. Right. He raised a commensurate amount of money as other county council candidates. It's just none of them raised much money.
Well, I met with Mark a couple months ago, and it just didn't sound to me like he had even started the campaign. So
yeah, I think he's betting on a residual Mark Carter vote that I think is there. I just wonder if it's enough, and I tend to doubt it is. To me, I think if Gregory does what he needs to do, he wins.
Right.
And I think for the most part, he's doing what he needs to do.
I think it's going to be an interesting race down on the 27th.
I'm going to go smear some mustard on his shirt next time I see him. Just say, go knock doors like this. Give people something to talk about besides how pretty you are. The 27th, Jacob Turner.
Yeah.
I like that guy. He's a hustler.
I like him too. He's working really hard, and that's certainly
you're going to help him?
That's my pick.
If you don't help him, he can't win, right?
Well,
am I wrong?
We're going to see what happens.
Well, I mean, if you don't help him, he's going to lose.
Yeah. He's working. He's working hard.
That's true. I mean, I have to say that guy is hustling. Yeah. Berger's working too. All three are working. I think Chris Dinkins has a path to win that. It probably requires a couple, I guess we'll call them special interest groups to come in and fund. I mean, Jamie being a Democrat is something that I think at the end of the day could hit. But he has really worked hard with a rifle approach.
And he's a very likable guy.
He's
just a good guy.
I mean, I think Jacob gets a little more sizzle for his work, but I think Jamie, Jacob's that wide receiver, right? Maybe you can hit a bomb or not. Jamie's that 3 yard at a time running back, but he's running all the damn time. I agree. It's a more interesting race than people give it credit for. I think Jamie's the favorite, but there are hits on Jamie, I think, that could bleed.
It would be interesting too to this whole scenario as far as these Senate primaries is the idea that Trump wins big in Missouri. We know that's going to happen. Eigel becomes the next governor. How is that going to affect those down ballot, races, as far as that kind of candidate? I
only saw one at the Bill Eigel announcement in North St. Charles, which is actually a nice part of St. Charles County, to be honest with you. I've been in cornfields, Jacob Turner. Mm-hmm. I'm impressed with that dude. Oh, by the way, we have a candidate at noon. Stick around. We'll take a break in between. Dean Plogger's going to come in. We're going to talk about lawsuits, Secretary of State's races, how he keeps his hair, what deal he did with what devil to look that way at whatever age he is after this. But give me another. What about Southern Missouri, Hudson and Travis Smith?
I don't know a lot about that race. Hudson, I believe, is my kind of guy.
Has Brad Hudson been walking along that road to Damascus and that burning bush? And I love suing people now. I see the light. Is that what we're going to see there?
Could be.
Yeah, I just feel as though the Reverend may have a change of heart about the Seventh Amendment, as you'd say.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the 23rd. Bill Eigel's seat. I remember Phil Cristofanelli out with Bill Eigel back in the day. It was like before I saw him and you together all the time. I used to see Phil and Bill together all the time. Is there residuals from that work that pays off?
I think both of those candidates are working very hard.
Schnelting and Phil
Schnelting. Yeah, I think
Rich Krismer's going to get a few votes.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
10.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I think that's a coin toss. I have my own druthers. I would rather see Adam Schnelting in the Senate. I think that he's a natural, bush, right? Yeah, I just think he's a natural fit for the Freedom Caucus, and I'm not sure.
Tell me about that. Am I wrong? And I've told you this privately. I'm not speaking out of school. It felt a little more cohesive when it was the Conservative Caucus. I'm not sure how great
Well, maybe that's because I was running it.
I'm just gonna say. I guess
I'm kidding about that.
That's a kiss-ass thing to say, but I think you could point to some, and maybe it's because I don't like Washington people. Yeah. So that could be just my own personal bias. I don't know. Have House members and the Washington folks helped
Well, I'll tell you what. I think I don't know about the Washington folks, but certainly having a House contingent
Are they going to cut
the
some
Freedom
checks?
Caucus.
Are they going to cut some checks?
Not to my knowledge.
I'd be a little red-assed about that if
Yeah.
I was in the Freedom Caucus and I
Yeah.
wasn't getting a check out of it.
But I think that the cohesion that we had between Senate members and House members, and I thought it was good.
What was the look? This is just my stein of knowledge. By the way, I appreciate this. This is an Oklahoma stein sent to me. Shout out to Carrie Engel, being an Oklahoma native. I've got a few of these state steins, but it is a Budweiser stein. Appreciate it. I'm gonna take my steiner. I felt like the cohesion between yourself and House leadership might have been more beneficial to folks than some random House members and Senate members.
Well, there was certainly a coming together of minds on a number of different things,
and I'm
that
sure all
I think
those
worked
other
out.
I'm sure those other minds were helpful to the end. But I kind of feel like maybe yours and a few people in House leadership's mind might have been more valuable to accomplishing the goal than some of that. But so 23rd, big one. Oh, the 21st, Denny's seat. Well, not really Denny's seat. The redrawn kind of Clay County over to Marshall and Boonville area. Doug Ritchie versus Curtis Gregory. I think that you talk about two guys. They look different. They talk different. Those are two, very different dudes.
Right.
To me, that makes for an interesting race to cover because you have very different. I mean, Phil and Adam are similar outside of one or two things. I mean, they're kind of similar people
as far as their voting record and
voting, and just kind of they're very right wing, and they're they look the same. It just there's a lot of similarities there. Very different approaches to life, to how they wake up in the morning, what they wear, with their history and background, and none of it bad or anything. But that's an interesting race. How do you see that turning out?
I think that Doug Ritchie wins that race. Yeah.
Why?
I just got it in my gut that he's right, on the issues,
Good
and it'd go back to this idea of, what is the temperament right now of the electorate, as far as what kind of candidate are they voting for. And I think, although I don't know Curtis Gregory very well, so I know I've met him a couple of times. I haven't looked at his voting record, to be honest with you. But he just seems to be kind of part of the team, the establishment.
You talk about the Mizzou Cotton Bowl winner.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe he's used to being part of the team,
I think the Bratton race is going to be interesting.
So I thought Rick Bratton, it was so funny to me to see Rick Bratton just dog cuss Cindy every day. And then Cindy had her top friends out passing his bill. And I'm just like, it reminded me of the old Tom Sawyer story about having people whitewash Aunt Polly's fence for him. How in the world did Rick dog cuss those people every day and then carry his water for him?
Right.
It was one of the most impressive legislative feats I've ever seen.
Or it was God's good providence.
Well, you dog cuss these people in January. They pass your stuff in April, and you just keep dog cussing them, and they just come back for more. It was like I was stunned because Cindy usually ain't the fool. But I'm like, you fools, this guy's dogged you out. He's running on the promise of, I'm going to keep dogging you every day. And you give him a major legislative achievement. I was impressed so much by Rick being able to do that. That is an impressive feat.
What's going to be interesting is when Bill Eigels, the governor, and Cindy is leading the Senate, what kind of relationship is going to develop there? And I think I would be optimistic on that, because I really think
it'll be better, and I think Bill will be different.
Yeah.
I think if Bill's in charge of something, you're going to see a different side of him. I think a leadership part of him will rise, and he will be a leader.
And I think Cindy really wants to do some of the things that Bill wants to do.
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think that Cindy, I think if Bill sat in his high school counselor like this, and his high school counselor, you should be part of a legislative body where 34 people have to agree, that counselor should be fired. Bill, if you told Bill you should be in charge of something, yeah, I think that counselor is probably right. I just think Bill's personality, temperament, experience in life did not lead him to be part of a group of people for 34 votes. He meant to be nice to people and courteous. But being in charge, yeah, no, I think Bill, you'll see it. I think people see a different version of Bill if he's governor, and it'll be easier for Cindy to work with. And I think at the end of the day, they're both a little bit hellraisers. I agree with you, but I think it'll be Bill that's a little different, and I don't see that having a problem. I think the funnest thing to cover is going to be Jay and Cindy. That will be so fun to cover because I think she'll have none of it, and
Right.
that'll be the more people think her and Bill sparking. I'm with you. It won't be quite like that. It'll be a little sparkish because they're both sparks. Jay and Cindy will be the fun one.
Yeah.
That'll be the fun.
Hey,
thing
can
to
I
cover.
do a shout out
Yeah.
for our good friend Denny Hoskins? You know, in the race that he's running for Secretary of State. I mean, I see Denny all over the state. You know, he's working it really hard.
Red jacket.
That red jacket.
Is it just something
and his
in the
beautiful
water?
Wife. You know,
oh,
Michelle.
she's the
Yeah,
best.
Yeah.
Is it just something in the water in Warrensburg? They wear tacky jackets. The David Pierce
That's right.
tacky jacket
Pierce.
club.
That's right. Yeah.
I agree. So to me, that's interesting. The AG's race is pretty much just, can Will's daddy buy the race out from under the Missourians? I don't think there's any more to the race. You have a guy with a terrible record. Like Will Sharp wants to talk about his life for the last 120 days.
Yeah.
Not a day before, because none of it's great for a Missourian. I mean, I don't like Harvard people. Maybe you like Harvard folks. I've never really, that's not my cup of tea.
One of the smartest guys I've ever met, though.
I totally agree with that. The dude is next level smart. Yeah. You got a war hero from Montgomery County. It is truly a difference of thing. But that Trump lawyer thing and his dad's wallet, yeah, Will's got a good shot. Bailey, I think he's got to hang on, right? But that's easy. Secretary of State's race, everybody you know. I mean, if you ain't got a cousin running for Secretary of State, check your family tree.
It's a big field,
yeah.
Right?
I think Denny, my assumption is a lot of the folks that you've cultivated, the activists, a lot of the folks for Bill are going to be for Denny.
I think so, and
they're conditioned to see the two of them together.
And again, this is another one of those examples of the people wanting a fighter. Denny has proven he's a fighter.
Oh, he'll tell you chicken shit to your face.
That's right.
Ain't no doubt about it.
You look crossways at his wife, and you end up.
You get your ass whipped. If Mike Kehoe would have done that, I don't think you could beat him. If you took that video and put Mike Kehoe in the Denny Hoskins pose, I think you'd all be like, "Well, shit, I don't know what we're gonna do here now." But you've got Valentina, who's funny. But Facebook is a great medium. It won't take you so far, right? A lot of campaigning, not in Missouri, but I think she's funny, and I watch all her videos, and I think they're hilarious. You got Schuler, Shane, good dude.
Yes,
I mean, you serve with what a good dude. If you know Shane, you're very likely to vote for Shane. But you get that Southwest Missouri thing. If the race comes down to Shane, I think Shane's going to get Shane's vote, right? And I don't know how much more than that, but about, I think between 15, 20 is a good day for Shane. Could win, right. But it's kind of up to the luck.
What do you think it takes? 23, 25?
I would say 20, because they break late and they break hard.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of these races are going to be these nail biters. Just show me the race, even the race that was competitive on July 15th, the U.S. Senate primary, legit 4-candidate race. Very close until the 15th of July, and then Schmidt won going away.
Right.
These races break late and they break hard, and I think Secretary of State will be the same way. Mary Elizabeth Coleman, probably the most talented politician of the crew.
Right.
I mean, she's the one. I watched one year Tua went in for the Alabama in the SEC championship game. They were losing. She's that electric person. She can, but we ain't seen much of that yet. I've not seen a lot of actual campaigning. Now maybe it's going on.
I haven't seen much activity at all.
And so, there even a really talented magician can only do, there are limits to what you can pull off. But I think she could pull something off. Very, very talented. Schwadron, good dude.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna have to bank. I really thought this was just kind of a race like a lot of Missouri. Well, Carnahan has done it. John Ashcroft did it. Ran for statewide office as a show for later. Then he got that $100,000 check, and I was like, oh. You got to have more of them to really do it.
Right.
I think you throw Denny in there. Denny, if Bill Eigle's governor, I don't see how Denny's not Secretary of State. I think that's, they're going to – I don't know that Denny could win that without Bill doing very, very well.
Right.
I just kind of think the two of them, to every activist I saw at the kickoff and things, they're accustomed to saying, oh, Bill and Denny, they're fighting. Right. They're doing this today in the Senate. I just think he is kind of in that wake, in the same way that a Lincoln Huff kind of needs Mike Kehoe to do well.
Right.
There's some similarities there in my view. Then Dean Plocker. Tell me, why in the hell is Dean Plocker not out saying, you couldn't beat me at the ballot box? I beat you at Swamp in the legislature 7-2. Now you're taking me to court just like Trump.
Yeah.
Where the hell? He got this wonderful gift last week. Yeah. Where's he at?
He should have a piece with, side by side, right? They went after Trump. They're going after me.
I'm going to ask him at noon. How is it? I mean, I heard that verdict and I was like, that is bullshit. And I don't think it's just me. I see the warts on Trump. I am not a guy that thinks Trump walks on water. I understand. I think Trump did a good job, but I'm not, you're not going to bullshit me with stuff. I get Donald Trump. But the people of this state love Donald Trump.
Yes.
You can, whatever flaws you may see, folks don't see those in Southeast Missouri and North Missouri. And the city of Springfield might, but you get a bunch out of there, job them, they don't see them. The suburbs of St. Louis, the Republicans there they see Jeffco. My God, he could be the king of Jeffco.
Well, and the narrative was relatively easy as far as, you know, persecution, you know, going after him with the justice system. I mean, it was just so clear.
Everybody wanting to compare themselves to Trump right now has to work at it. It's very hard. Dean Plocker has facts for his narrative. He doesn't have to bullshit like he's like Trump. He actually has facts to place in line. I read that lawsuit. I thought it was ridiculous. I thought it was a 7th grade tell-all gossip fest. And I hate that because you worked in the legislature with Dana Rademan. I have a high regard for Dana. I don't, maybe there's more to this lawsuit that's filed and we're going to say, oh, well, that's why she did it. I think it's sad that this may be how she's remembered, but I think it's even more sad that Dean Plocker isn't out saying, well, I'm fighting for you.
And it's a different world from the time that I served in the House because the Speaker had ultimate power.
Yeah.
In that body.
They gave it away.
You know, they gave it away.
And if I go back to, if I'm Cindy O'Loughlin, right, you benefited from shots sitting on his ass and not coming at you. Mm-hmm. He sat back, I don't get involved in that. And much to you had to be like, yep, you don't get involved in that. Good for you. If Cindy sits back in these primaries, I have no sympathy for her. Right. If you like people that give her hell, that, you know, if you're a sucker, I'm sorry, I don't feel sorry for the sucker. And I think it's the same way here. If Dean sits back and the legislature, if the House members, if Speaker Patterson, Floor Leader Riley doesn't sit back and say, wait a minute, give me those rules and procedures you've been handed me. Because you know how it is. You get there the first day, your family's there, you got kids running around, you get sworn in. It's a wonderful thing. You pass the rules of the House so you can get sworn in, all that stuff. That second thing of policies and procedures, I think they should be like, we'll do this next week. When the family isn't here, when we're not getting our tuxedo picked up from Samuels and all that, something's not right in how much power they've gave over the bureaucracy, and they're fools if they don't do something about it.
Yeah. And to get back to Cindy for a second, I think the interesting thing to watch is 2026 in the Missouri Senate, because you have a class of senators that are terming out, most of them being on what I would call the moderate side of the equation. So those are going to be some very interesting primaries setting up in 26.
You got Searpoy, the Huff seat, but if he's lieutenant governor, it'll be a special. But you have Brown's seat. Yeah. Now I see what you're saying there. Tell me lieutenant governor.
I met with Wassinger. I met with
what
Wassinger.
Percentage could you get with Lincoln's money? If you were running the campaign and you had that much money, you would. If Bill Eigel would have ran for that, I think he'd have that much money. No one would have ran, right?
Right.
If Bill would have ran for lieutenant governor, he'd have won.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Sure. Everybody wanted him to run for lieutenant governor.
Well, I think, but I mean, I just, as a matter of a compliment, frankly, I think he would have won. I don't think anybody ran against him.
I think he's going to win as governor. So I think
way better.
Right.
You know,
right. Nobody thought he'd win the Senate seat. Running against Ann Zaire. This is a guy that started politically.
He wanted to clear up
politically from nothing, because when I met him, he'd never been involved in politics at all, and he worked hard. He did what he said he was going to do, and he was successful. And that's kind of been his story.
The only sad part, I'll just say, when he got elected, everybody thought he was going to hold Bob Bonner's coat for him. I mean, that was the thought is, he's going to be Bob's number 2, whatever, be his secretary. Comes out first couple weeks in the Senate and does a filibuster and recuses on a vote, and the governor calls him in and threatens him, and he stands up, and I'm like, holy shit, Carl Bearden was right. This guy is great.
Yeah.
Then he was wanting to vote for PQs. Now, I don't believe Jim Lemke likes that PQ business. I don't believe it.
I don't think we should use it as rarely as possible.
Do you think, and I'll let you go, I know you got things to do, but do you think that you could have won the IP on just that it should be harder to change the Constitution?
Without
all the other stuff.
The other stuff in there. I don't think so. No, not based on what happened in other states with that. I think that it needed to have that language in there. I think that the idea that the ball was fumbled on the 1 yard line by Mary Elizabeth Coleman and the leadership.
I mean, what if she didn't do that? How would the outcome have been different?
I think that we would have used the PQ there, and it would have gone to the people.
I think probably with all the Clean Missouri type stuff in there might have worked, but I'm pessimistic. I'm pessimistic at the end, but I'm more optimistic than most. I think you could have made that case to the people of the state. I think it should be harder to change the Constitution.
Oh, I agree.
Not impossible, but harder.
Right. But I haven't given up on the Missouri voters that have sent supermajorities of Republicans to our capital for the last 20 years. I think that we can defeat getting abortion into our Constitution.
I think you can. I think you spent so long fighting with each other that I don't see what the message is. I thought the decline to sign thing, I guess, because what else were you going to? I mean, I hate to be the guy that just says that was bad and not have an idea. I don't think you could have kept people from signing that. I think if you pay the folks to get something on the ballot, it gets on the ballot. I guess that was as good as anything. I certainly didn't have an idea on how to keep people from signing it. But I think that in people's gut, even in Catholic South St. Louis County, where you're from, I think even pro-life people feel like maybe this is a little much. And I think there's proof of that in Texas, Ohio, other places.
I don't agree with Mike Serpoy very often, but he came out on kind of a hit on Missouri Right to Life recently on Facebook, and I thought Mike made a lot of good points in there as far as the inconsistency of Missouri Right to Life and how that organization has really changed, over the decades, and with decisions that they have made. So I really think that this is really about who the Missouri, who we are as a people in Missouri. And I do believe the idea that we have supermajorities of pro-life legislators in the House and the Senate, that means something. And I don't think those people are going to allow abortion into our Constitution. Let me make one more point.
Yeah.
You talk about an organized campaign or having the money to stop something like that. If you remember the stem cell fight that Bob Onder and I did, we were outspent 10-1, 30 million to 3 million in that. Now we ended up losing that. It was 49 to 51. But this is a very pro-life state.
I mean, I agree with you. I just don't know that it's as, to me, I think pro-life can mean different things to different people. Missouri Right to Life, I think, it made a mistake in the sense that an interest group makes when you're dominant. If you, like, some people didn't believe the congressional map was about abortion. They just didn't. Right. They thought it was about a congressional map. Right. They didn't believe Medicaid is about abortion, and whether right or wrong, but in an interest group that says, if you ever vote against me once, you're blacklisted forever, you have no incentive later on when I'm lobbying the next issue, the next session, to come over, because you've never let anybody, Bob Onder is the only one I've ever seen them be against and then let him come back in the fold.
Right.
And look what all Bob's had to do, dedicate his whole damn 15, 20 years to it. I think it's bad political practice when you don't give somebody a way back in.
Right.
And they haven't give folks a way back in. And I think their movement suffers from it. I do. I don't think it adds up at the end of the day. But I think all of Missouri Right to Life's issues are going to be cured in November. I mean, frankly, the worst day for Missouri Right to Life was the day Roe v. Wade was overturned. Yeah. Then they have to.
What do they lobby on?
New stuff.
Right. The
best day for them as an interest group is going to be November if this passes. Then they'll be back with the intensity. And while I'm sure they don't want that, I believe pro-life people are generally pretty sincere about it. The facts on the ground are going to be, it's going to be much better to be them in November than it is today.
Can I finish with one
I can sit and talk all day. So
one observation about, what we call the swamp, because I think you were joking about it yesterday, we were joking about it earlier. I think it's important to know that when I'm talking about the swamp, I'm not talking about registered lobbyists that roam the halls of Jeff City. Okay, those guys are paid to do a job. They're representing special interests, whatever that special interest is.
Nurses, whatever it is.
Yeah, Missouri Right to Life,
yep.
Right? What I'm talking about is what is behind them. okay, the people that they work for, okay, the special interests that actually benefit as government grows larger and larger, the bureaucracies that benefit as we grow government and add, to it. That's the swamp, and that's what really needs to be addressed. It's not, the guys that are, walking down the hallways in the $2,000 suits. It is the status quo. It's
I think
just
regular
government.
folks have more sympathy for a nurse who, if you do increase spending on Medicaid, probably at some point down the line indirectly benefits from it. I think folks are more pissed at the guy in the $2,000 suit than they are that nurse out, cleaning up somebody's vomit in the hospital.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I see your point, and I tend to agree with you. But I think that most people that hear someone say the swamp think you're talking about lobbyists.
Yeah.
And it's always true. Whoever's ox is getting gored. The difference between special interest and a freedom fighter is just whose ox is getting gored, right?
Right.
These are all just two rich guys fighting over $1.
How many of those guys would be roaming the halls if our government was half the size that it is? And not just in the state of Missouri, but even at the federal level. I mean, if government was just doing those things that it should do.
What government do you think is the right size?
As small as possible.
What state, though? What state has the right size government?
I'm not prepared to answer that.
Well, after you're done,
I do know that Missouri spends $2 per citizen, and Florida spends $1 per citizen.
I have been to Tallahassee.
Mm-hmm.
There's a shit ton of lobbyists in that place.
Yeah. Right.
So I mean, I don't know it. What you're saying makes logical sense to me, but I have been to Tallahassee, and there's a lot of old boys in $2,000 suits down there. Senator, I could sit and talk all day. I know you got.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you very much for the time. I sure appreciate
Thanks for
it.
having me.
We're gonna be back here 15 minutes. Go get yourself a sandwich. Pour your own stein of knowledge. We'll be back with Dean Plocker, the most Trump-like guy I think running for office right